Alright? So Ghana's flirtation with communism was a defining feature of its post-independence era, particularly from the 1970s through the mid-1980s under Forbes Burnham, who adopted socialist policies, nationalized industries, and established ties with communist nations, especially Grenada. Though the People's Progressive Party, or the PPP, led by Chidi Jagang, was originally founded as a Marxist-Leninist party, it was actually Burnham's PNC, or People's National Congress, that implemented widespread state control and laws and leftist ideology, right? And we're going to look at some key players, and then we're going to look at a brief overview of Ghana in the 1970s and 80s and stuff. So, Chedi Jagang, founder of the PPP, or the People's Progressive Party, he was a Marxist who served as premier before independence, but was removed by the British, who feared of his left-leaning ideology. He finally became president in 1992 after the country's transition away from socialism, but this was actually kind of funny because Forbes Burnham was actually the guy that was anti-communist and the moderate choice, so the British chose him, and then he did like a 180, and then he implemented all the left-leaning policies, so that was pretty funny. Now, like we said, Forbes Burnham led the People's National Congress, or the PNC, steering Ghana towards a cooperative republic in the 1970s. He nationalized foreign-owned sugar and bauxite companies, controlling over 80% of the economy by, 1971, 1972. Now, the Socialist era, 1970s to 1985. Under Burnham, the government turned increasingly towards the Soviet bloc, declaring the paramounticity, or the paramountcy, of the ruling party over the state, or the official law iron fist over the state. Now, the era was marked by authoritarianism, electoral fraud, and even economic decline. Now, there's another infamous fact about Ghana. I think this is one of the more widely known things about Ghana, honestly. The Jonestown, right? In 1974, James Jones established the Jonestown, Jonestown community or communion or compound in Guyana, aiming to build a socialist paradise in, the Guyanese jungle, which culminated in the 1978 mass murder-suicide known as the Jonestown Massacre. So this is probably one of the most infamous chapters there. But anyway, there's the post-communist shift. There's the post-communist shift. So following Burnham's death in 1985, and at the end of the Cold War is kind of winding down. Ghana began to privatize its economy and move away from state-controlled socialism in the early 1990s, and even Chedi Jagang moved from Marxist-Leninist to Democratic Socialist, and kind of just just balanced the two. And he didn't went crazy as Burnham, so he kind of just leveled out, privatized, did this, did that, social safety net, stuff like that. And obviously today Ghana has a hybrid Republican parliamentary form of government, similar to that of other post-British colonies in the Caribbean that became republics like Trinidad or Barbados, just to give an example. Not biased, but just to give an example. And of course Ghana, there's one other republic up in here as well, but I think a lot of islands are kind of gonna move towards republicanism. But this is not about the other one. This is about Ghana. This is Ghana's time to shine. This is my second video on Ghana, so this is Ghana's time to shine. And it's pretty much a democracy with a market-oriented economy, as you know. So that's pretty much Ghana. That's a brief overview. We'll do something else on Ghana later, but that's a brief overview on Ghana. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. And until next time, that's pretty much Ghana. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Leopard and stuff, yeah. Pretty cool coat of arms, I must add. Pretty cool. Not as cool as ours, but pretty cool.